same thing perspective. Texas should have blown them out of the water. It's a Texas home game.
On 4th and 1, why would you?
Overthinking.
I've always said their one weakness is their quarterback. He's average at best.
Notre Dame's, they're probably over next round. I don't think they beat Georgia.
It's hard not to just be fucking pissed off.
And the kick is, what is he looking at? What a hit! Ball's free! Geni's in the house. It's scooped up by the Ducks. Marcus, you believe that? Unbelievable! They got blockers. Boise State. We're going to win the football game. Up and blocked. Sneaks is going to throw. Clemson. Touchdown!
Welcome to another episode of BTN Sports. I am your host today, Peter Marrable. While the big host is off flamenco dancing in Spain, I got my two main co-hosts here. Actually, one main co-host, and we got one special guest, Nevin Shapiro to my right, and the man behind the glass. We don't really let him often that much because, he wears Gator stuff. But Mike Lazo, our producer, special guest today on the show. Gentlemen,
free
how
at
are you
last.
Doing amazing. You know how I feel.
I mean, I'm happy. I actually got somebody to say my name on the show right for the first time.
I say right behind the scenes all the time, Marrable. You know what I'm saying?
But how do we feel today? We have the inmates running the asylum. No pun intended.
Yeah, none taken.
How was quick recap? How was your first weekend of freedom?
Man, it was amazing. Like, life, God is good and life is great, and I'm happy to be here in person. And I'm not a figment of your imagination,
or most people's imaginations,
or a window inside of a computer screen.
Yeah, and no, man, I'm really happy to be here, and I'm enjoying doing this thing with you guys.
I mean, you answered me in 10 seconds. Hey, can you be here at 11? Yeah, I'm there.
Anything to get me out of the house.
Yeah, I'm leaving.
You want me to get Starbucks for you guys?
I'll pick you up on the way. I'm like, dude, I'm not even out of bed. But
Nope.
But a wild weekend in college sports. A lot of the games went as expected for the home teams.
Yeah.
Let's start recapping some of the games. I'll get both of your feedbacks on each one. Lazo, you're going to be our PD for this show.
I'll just add in. I'll be quiet.
So, what did you think about Clemson and Texas?
I was a little bit surprised that. So in my when I did my breakdown before the 12-team playoff started, I picked Texas over Penn State was my selection, and not because I necessarily think Penn State's good. I've said it all season. I just think they have such a joke of a ride, and right. So, but anyway, Texas, I expected a lot more from them. That was a home game. Their defense was exploited worse than what I had thought it could be exploited. I thought they would really bulldoze Clemson. And I guess for a minute they were, but Clemson moved the ball on them, and I was disappointed in Texas's defense, and I think I think that now that they become neutral site games, you really find out more. When you have a home field advantage, which I think needs to change also for this playoff, which I'm sure we'll get into. But they're going to have to tweak it because people should just be happy we got 12 teams.
Right.
But I was very impressed with Texas's running game and offense.
Oh my God.
But not overly thrilled with their defense.
Same. So when I took a look at that game, I thought same thing perspective. Texas should have blown them out of the water. It's a Texas home game. And they just didn't. They let Clemson hang around and hang around and hang around. They stopped them on a 4th and 1. Which was huge on the goal line.
Oh,
That game
That would have changed the game.
That game could have gotten real.
That would have tied the game. When they got within 7, and I'm like, wow. But then, this kid Blue took another 77-yarder to the house, and that was kind of all she wrote for that. But I thought for what Texas was doing, they got by that game. But I don't know if it was a look past or anything like that. But it definitely showed that Clemson has some fight in them. There's a reason they've won 9 ACC championships.
Mm-hmm.
And
I would agree with that that assessment, and my takeaway really from the Clemson performance, and then on the heels of the SMU, which I know we're going to talk about,
definitely
is it's really just a crying shame. Miami had just all the opportunity in the world, and I know we're going to get into that.
Yeah.
The ACC was just really poor, man. It was this was just a license to steal this season, man. Just was.
And you know who didn't capitalize on it?
Yeah, and I know we're going to talk about that, but that was my takeaway. Clemson did show a little bit more fight than what I had anticipated, and you got to, no matter what, you got to show respect to Dabo.
Yep.
Because he's a class act, and he's old school, man,
And a lot of people were criticizing him for not being so active in the NIL portal and all that other jazz. Because
me being one of them.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people criticizing him. He wasn't getting the top talent, but like for what he did with what he had and the way that he coached and the way that he got them into the game, and you could tell he made adjustments because all of a sudden Texas was more leveled. Once they got a couple scores underneath their belt, I feel like Texas wasn't ready for them to kind of do that, and it was like, oh shoot, now what? And it was more reactionary stuff.
You're right.
Yeah.
That game is a real game because now Texas has pressure that they've got to get a first down.
Yeah, they have to
on the following drive.
Yeah.
Or else they're looking at a potentially tie game or going behind.
But they did it where it matters, at least.
Yeah, like that game was not as close as the score was, but it could have been even closer.
Yeah.
Well, the game was close because you have Texas going for it on 4th and 1 twice because they know they can't afford to punt the ball away and put it on their defense.
Yeah.
Because they had started to figure out, like, we can move it. They were stuffing a lot of the quarterback draw with the Clemson quarterback. I can't remember the kid's name right now. They were stuffing a lot of that, but there were still a lot of holes in that defense, and I think that they would have eventually been exposed if they wouldn't have gotten those couple first downs to end that game.
Yeah. Clay Cubnick.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mike, any additional thoughts? I know you're just loaded with opinions.
No. Yeah. The only one that kind of hurt me was seeing Manning go in and give away the ball.
That was an absolutely terrible
Oh,
call.
my
On
God.
4th and 1, why would you
Overthinking.
Why?
Poor
I made that. You're right when you say overthinking. I made that point. I was watching the game with my one of my neighbors who's a diehard college fan, and I said, guys like Lane Kiffin, Sarkisian, great offensive minds, but like sometimes they just like get too cute for their own good. Like, what are you in a hurry to make it? Like, everything's got to be perfect when you do a rush snap, rush count like that, and like you're running through this team for 1,000 yards. What do you do?
Yeah.
Huge.
Line up and go.
Yeah. Give him the
Like
ball.
line up and go. That was just a stupid.
Yeah, that was. It was a hard to watch. He didn't get much playing time, but when he did, I see.
That's a stupid call. Yeah.
That was a tough one.
It's again, to me, what I've watched, even sometimes in the NFL, like I've just watched overcoaching. Like I watched John Harbaugh the other day call silly timeouts for no reason. I'm like, dude, you're winning, or at this point you're winning. What are you trying to, overcoach? And I see some of this happen to a lot of times in college football. I saw it with the Arizona State BYU game. Stupid calls, almost cost them the game. But yeah, I thought that call was silly too. Like if you have a running back that's already just dicing them, just give him the ball.
Yeah.
If you don't get it with him, fine, you don't get it. But don't put in a kid that's never played in a playoff game in his life.
Yeah.
And he literally just gets
His hands are shivering before he calls it.
There's no short, like the 4 teams that lost, like good riddance, honestly. Get rid of that shit, and like Tennessee's the only team that I would say probably truly deserved to be in that playoff. Indiana did not. SMU did not. And
Clemson either.
Backed in because Miami lost to Syracuse.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but I mean, if we look at all the scores, it kind of probably the only one that almost a game.
yeah,
If we look at all the scores.
accurate. I'm really
Yeah.
looking forward to next week's matchups. Finally,
So on to Ohio State and Tennessee, which I thought to me was going to be, like you said, the game. Like to me, that's the only game I was looking forward to all weekend.
Yeah.
And from the jump, Ohio State looked like not only a far superior team, but a more prepared team.
Yeah.
They came out of the gun. They found every single little loop. I can't tell you how many times they hit the little halfback out of the backfield, in the wing. They hit it in the first half alone. They hit it probably 6 times.
Yeah.
So Ohio State to me looked like a much more prepared team. Nico looked a little bit lost on offense. Couldn't figure out, where his reads were. I thought their offensive play calling for what they were trying to do wasn't working for him. You see in the second quarter, they kind of shifted a little bit, and he started getting a little bit of rhythm, making some throws that he's comfortable with. But I thought, overall, Tennessee was completely outmatched.
Yeah.
So the way I see that game, and it was clearly obvious, Michigan created that buzzsaw for Tennessee. Okay, Ohio State had 3 weeks to hear how much they sucked. And let me just tell you, it's never about the X's and O's. It's always about the Jimmies and Joes. And Ohio State has NFL talent laden all over that defense. And I saw on that first drive, my feeling has been all year. If you look at our podcast, I've always said their one weakness is their quarterback. He's average at best.
Yep.
And when he came out chucking, now he's got confidence, and it's like you just putting down a few beers.
Right.
Now you just feel like I'll fight anyone.
Right, that's true. I mean,
And they went into that, and when he and Jeremiah Smith, honestly, he's the best player in the country. I mean, he's the best. He's the best player in America. He's the most talented player
he's a
in
freshman.
America. He could go to the NFL now.
Yeesh.
He's that good. And man, Miami really, really just should have done whatever to keep that kid in house. Can you imagine Cam Ward throwing?
You literally had him in your backyard. Shaman
Well,
Ramadan.
He was kind of torn between going to Miami or Ohio State, and obviously,
But
Ohio State's Ohio State. So
Luke spoke about that in our podcast the other day. Like, they should have kept that three together. That quarterback Bailey, who went to NC State, Josiah Trader. Maybe Bailey obviously wouldn't have played because Cam Ward was incredible. But now Bailey would be coming in now. Now you got, I mean, dude.
But you also mentioned where you develop the player. You're not left out. Okay, what do we do next?
That
Now
kid
you have him as a
Jeremiah
backup
Smith.
to
When I
Cam
look at
Ward, and
him-
you're developing
When I
him.
look at him,
Yeah.
I don't think of anything but Andre Johnson.
Jeremiah Smith.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. His
I mean,
size,
it's
his
like
frame.
he's a clone, man.
I mean, he's. I have this debate all the time, obviously with a couple of other guys. You know, we always go back and forth, Ryan Williams and this and that. But after watching Saturday's game, it's so hard to.
This kid's ready for the NFL
Yeah,
now.
it's so hard to say. You know what?
I just watch his hand check. Like, he moves just little tricks of the trade. If you're not really familiar with, he's NFL ready,
Yeah.
man. He's just NFL. His high school training was obviously great, and he's built next level now.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they were saying on the cast on the simulcast when they were talking about the show that his preparation for an 18-year-old kid is something that not even some NFL pros do. Of how
I'm
how
telling
much
you, Larry
he's-
Fitzgerald, Andre Johnson, Randy Moss, Calvin Johnson,
Like that caliber?
that caliber,
Wow.
Julio Jones.
Yeah.
That
He is nice.
He's right there
Yeah, he is.
now.
Yeah.
Like now. But anyway, Ohio State's really stacked. I think we had that discussion weeks ago, that if we had to pick one, they were always the lurking giant. And now they've been installed as a 2.5-point favorite over Oregon. And I still believe that it's an overreaction because everyone just saw what they did to
Right.
Tennessee. Now you go to a neutral field, and Oregon
don't have that home field
Oregon's
anymore.
still really good. And now you're going to see what Will Howard is. Like,
Yeah.
now they're going to need him to win a game at some point, and I just don't think he can. That's my
Wow.
feeling on Ohio State.
But you just feel like Ohio State keeps the ball rolling at this point, or faces a more prepared, rested, like Oregon team kind
I
of thing?
think this is the game of the entire playoff.
Yeah, I think the winner here.
The winner
wins it.
here goes all the
Fucking
way.
wins it all.
I think the winner here establishes himself as the clear-cut favorite.
Yeah.
And that would be even with potentially playing Texas that next round. I'm just trying to figure out how Penn State snuck their way into that seed, and Oregon got penalized for going
For winning.
undefeated.
For winning.
It's
Yeah, that to me doesn't make any sense. You know, we talked about the structure of the playoff bracket. You know, you get the four teams with byes. None of them have home games. But then you get the other side where the higher seeds all get home games. You know, it doesn't really benefit you to go undefeated. It doesn't really benefit you to go to be a Big Ten champion if you get essentially the hardest road for Oregon. It's, the hardest road for the playoffs. Why wouldn't you want to take the Penn State road where you can play an SMU, which we can kind of segue right into that disaster? If anybody was least prepared, if anybody has, obviously SMU, they had a great season, but if anybody didn't belong in that initial first round, it was SMU. SMU did not.
I would agree with you. I would almost. I think them and Indiana were equally non-deserving.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like your point's right, but I think they were equally non-deserving. Indiana played nobody all year, and SMU, and it gets to that argument. And I listen to all the Miami fans, me being one of them, and it's hard not to just be fucking pissed off, man, that you're not in this shit.
Yeah.
Because
you think Miami wouldn't have faced the same outcome?
No way. No way, man. No
Like,
way,
you
man.
gotta think.
Miami, if they handle business, even with the bullshit loss to Georgia Tech, they should have went 12-0. They come in as a number 2 seed, Miami. They come in as a number 2 seed. So they get a bye.
Right.
They end up fucking up one of these teams that whoever just came out, either Notre Dame or Penn State.
Yeah, Notre Dame.
In my opinion, right? Then they're in the Orange Bowl. So now you already know you got the insanity of the crowd and the city behind you. So it makes you even play a little bit better than you are. Miami goes to the finals, 1-game season, to win it all after years of irrelevance. And that's who got the game, because they couldn't beat Syracuse. And any Miami fan that feels otherwise is just lying to themselves. They should have been in this playoff. They should have been in the playoff, man. They choked off a fucking game against Syracuse that is just it's just not excusable.
So with that being said, you kind of are making the point that they shouldn't even be in this playoff then, correct? Because they couldn't even be a Syracuse team.
Listen, it's the same reason why Ole Miss, and I love Lane Kiffin, it's the same reason Ole Miss calling, look at this garbage that's in there. Yeah, but that's why you got to play the games.
Yeah.
You have to win the games. Otherwise,
so
what are the
you're on the outside looking in. You can't call people.
Nobody, listen, if any Miami fan is unhappy, you just look right at Mario Cristobal. He's the head coach. He takes it. It's your company. He's the guy. You don't lose a 21-0 lead.
That's
man.
crazy.
When you're a 12-point favorite and you're running against a team that has given up the most yards in the ACC, one of the worst run defenses in America. You pound the fucking shit out of them and you just make them surrender.
You're up 21-zip.
You just make them surrender. And anyone who doesn't believe me or think I'm not saying something accurate, that's what it is.
It's true.
SMU could never have beaten Miami if they played in the ACC champion. Never could they have beaten Miami. I'm telling you.
Not even a close game?
Maybe close. I don't know. You have to say anything's possible as far as being close with that sorry-ass defense. But the problem is you got Cam Ward on the other side. So if you need 30, he'll get you 40.
Yeah.
And if you take a look at what our route would have been if we take that 2 seed, we're playing on the other side of the bracket of death, if you think about it, because the other side of the bracket has Oregon, Ohio State, Arizona, Texas.
Yeah.
All those teams would kill each other. Well, you got to think also, too, there'd be some type of shift, because if we were the 2, then Georgia wouldn't be the 2. So Georgia would be in that mix somewhere.
No, right. Georgia would have been a 3 seed. Boise would be a 4 seed.
Right.
And Arizona State would have come in as probably the 5, where them and Arizona State would have flip-flopped.
Right.
Georgia would have been 3. You're not ever, I don't even, 3 losses or not, you're not putting an SEC team as a 4 or 5 seed when you won your conference.
Of course.
Period. I don't care. You know what I mean? Because that's just like Russian roulette playing in that conference.
Yeah.
And man, it's like it's a bitter pill, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a bitter pill. A lot of the fans, and I read some of the comments we get and this and that, like, oh, he's a hater. Not a hater, I'm a realist, man.
Dude.
He should have been in the fucking playoffs. Period.
I read some of those comments. I was like, no, man.
Like, what are you talking about? You're lying to yourself. You're lying to yourself. If you don't think we should have been in the playoffs, hater. Wait, you want to it's like you got an F on your exam. What do you want, your dad to pat you on the back? Yeah,
at least you took the exam.
You're doing good. You're doing good. What?
No.
Fuck out of here. Be honest. Be real, man. This ain't fucking wings. This is like college football, man. You win the games you're supposed to win.
Yeah, and being up 21-zip.
That's it.
That's correct.
Fuck what anyone
You did.
says.
You chose you controlled your own destiny at that point.
Please.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought Penn State for that game, for the most part, super cruise control. They dominated
of course.
defensively.
And honestly, they suck.
They
suck. I mean, they got a good running game, and they got a fortified defense. But like, do they match up with like the? I'd
No.
love to see them play Tennessee in a neutral game in the playoff. Man, Tennessee
Probably would have been a
wax
better
them.
matchup.
It would be. They'd wax them though. You got to. It's all game by game scenarios, and these games were set up for the home team in every.
Easily.
Every home team obviously won. Tennessee, I thought, was maybe the only one that had a remote chance to kind of win an away game, and
likewise.
And they
that game was out of that kid Nico's hands before it started.
Yeah,
they took it away from him before he even had a chance, because Ohio State just came down and established what it was going to be for that game.
Yep. Yeah. And they came after him the entire game.
And they played with their pants on fire, man, and they really.
Yeah.
All right, jumping on to Indiana Notre Dame, which was another waste of time me watching something.
Another mistake.
Not a waste of time, because it's always fun watching football, but when you're looking at two different teams, like skill level, Indiana was another team that should not have been there.
Yeah.
If I knew we were going to talk about this game, I would have brought my violin or cello. I mean, come on.
And it's funny, you're not the only ones that feel like that. Kirk Herbstreit was on the. He's there like, yo, these mistakes cannot happen by the committee. You can't let these teams in just because.
So, question for you guys, okay? Obviously, it's hindsight. Would you have rather seen a 3-loss Mississippi or Miami team or Alabama team make it over?
I'll take SEC team over any other conference team for sure, all the time.
Right.
And I say all the time, they take Bama. UM would have taken over Bama. And some of my chats, I'm like, you're crazy. If Bama grabs Miami, it's not gonna.
Indiana played nobody all season. They squeaked by Michigan. They squeaked by them. They got crushed by Ohio State. And they blasted Nebraska, was the highlight of the year, which turned out to be a garbage team when it was all said and done. But you can only play the teams that they put in front of you.
I think for the product of the playoff, you let in a 3-loss Alabama team versus a 1-loss Indiana team, because to just show up and just say, "Oh, okay, we're here. We got here, guys." And they were making like a big stink where, last year they were this, the year before that they were that, and look where they're at now. Yeah, but
it becomes a first-round bye for Notre Dame.
It's exactly what it is, and that's how Notre Dame pummeled them at every aspect. And it's not like Notre Dame's this. To me, they're not like this crazy team. Like Notre Dame's, they're probably over next round. I don't think they beat Georgia, even though Georgia doesn't have Beck. But I honestly think they do better with the backup anyway. Yeah, he's mobile.
You got to do Georgia's defense.
That's right, baby.
You got to deal with Georgia's defense. Any way you slice.
But that's next week.
I mean, you got to deal with Georgia's defense. Period. At the end of the day, their offense is suspect. I've been saying it
all season.
Suspect, but
they weren't converting third downs either.
But they got the best coach in the game, and that's a lot. And he's the best coach in the game.
Kirby Smart.
Yeah.
All right. So looking ahead to the next week's games, we got Texas and Arizona State, neutral field. What do you think about that one?
I think it's a blowout.
You think so? That bad?
Yeah.
Texas.
You think Texas comes alive?
I think. Well, first of all, the receiver for Arizona State, who is a significant part of their offense, I don't have his name. I can't remember his name. But
I'll get it for us now.
He was out against Iowa State. Arizona State has had a great year. They look really crisp. They're going to a whole different level of competition, and Texas is played recently, and that matters in my opinion. And I think they're going to blast Arizona State, and I don't think Arizona State's going to get a whole lot. I think this kid Cam Scatterboo is going to get scatterbooed.
Yeah, I think once you stack the box and you force them to become a passing team, they're not gonna.
Texas's defensive front is really, really good.
Oh yeah,
this has been a good This has been an incredible run for Arizona State. Nothing but
ends.
nothing but admiration and kudos to them.
Yep.
Yeah, this party's over.
And the way the guy was rushing this past game.
This party's over.
Yeah.
They'll stack the box, and you're going to see a level of. You're going to see the difference between a team like this and that conference.
Well, I think we've seen that throughout some of the playoffs already. You know, we saw that with Penn State, SMU. You know, we saw that with a little bit of Texas and Clemson at the beginning, where you can tell the difference, the gap in talent. Is that I still think we're going to see it in this matchup because this to me is an easier layup than anything else that's out there, which is Ohio State. I mean, maybe Penn State and Boise State is another one that we're going to see where the gap in talent is going to be different. But I think, yeah, I agree with you. I think Arizona State is going to be out talented.
I think that ride ends and it ends
Bad. What's your prediction on that one? We'll take a look at the lines in a little bit, but
yeah, it's 14.
Fuck. That's crazy. That's crazy. Lazo, anything to add to your insight here for your ideas on Texas and Arizona State?
No. Texas is gonna, especially they're just gonna keep rolling from last week. Especially they had even though they had their battles with Clemson was clawing back at the end.
Well, you got to give Clemson their due though.
But still,
they're Clemson.
The battle test.
Being an SEC team. Yeah.
Listen, being an SEC team means nothing to Clemson. They won their first title over Alabama. When the college football playoffs came up.
Dabo's built for that.
Yeah.
Man. He's they don't duck recreation. They play anybody.
Yeah.
And
and they got mollywopped by Georgia at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, they did. I didn't think Clemson. I just didn't think all year Clemson. They backed into the thing, but they handled. They showed.
Yeah.
They earned respect in their performance.
Yeah, but to add to Nevin's point for sure, that party's over for Arizona State. Cinderella story is over at this point. Once Texas, even in neutral field, that Texas team is gonna dominate Arizona State.
I agree.
It's like they're gonna go in, be like, hey, nice to see you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. All right. Take care. I'll see you guys next year.
Toodles.
Yeah.
Matchup of the week for me, obviously. Matchup of the week for everybody. Biggest game, I think, in my opinion, obviously, Ohio State, Oregon. Mm-hmm. I'm excited to see what happens here. I am primarily because I have, in my group of friends, I have two guys. One's Ohio State, one's Oregon. They're both diehards. They're both under 5 feet tall. But
why?
Are we distant family?
We're actually getting them back now from their workshops in San Jose. but
I see their birth certificate.
But I think that this game is going to be the biggest game again for me for the week. I'm excited to see.
Definitely the most exciting game.
I'm excited to see what adjustments Ohio State's going to make after their first game with Oregon. I actually thought Ohio State had a chance to win that game, if not for 2 blunders. Actually, Jeremiah Smith with that offensive pass interference was what actually backed them up. And then on top of that, the genius call on DU sending out 12 people on the field really, really mind fucked them because they like, where do we throw it?
So, when what's happened since they've played is this: Oregon's gotten a lot better, right? And I like Oregon in this game, and I base my opinion a lot of time on how I see the line, right? We've
makes sense.
We've gone through this like when I liked Texas A&M against Texas. It wasn't because I really thought Texas A&M was a better team. It was situational. But you're never going to beat Vegas, so you got to let Vegas be your guide. And I see Oregon, Ohio State rather, is opened up as a 1.5 point favorite. Now they're 2.5 as of
Oregon.
Yep.
Ohio State is favored.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that's a reaction. That's a reaction to this game that they just played against
Right.
State. Now, if it was not a beatdown,
it was a close game.
Oregon's favored by 3.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Makes sense. I got you.
So right away, Vegas is already setting in public perception. And for that reason, I like Oregon. And I think Oregon has gotten better. Ohio State was the better team when they lost.
Yes. Agreed.
But Oregon's gotten better. And now they're an underdog. And I really see this weakness. I see this guy. This guy, Will Howard, to me is just. I know he threw for 300 yards, but I'm not buying stock in that guy, man.
It's a tough pick for me just because I think they barely scraped by against a Penn State with Oregon and Penn State when they played. And so when you see Ohio State, and I think they're gonna keep rolling. They're gonna keep rolling, and the game is gonna be a good game. But I want to side with Ohio State on this one.
Yeah.
Well, you got to remember when they played for the Big Ten championship, Penn State is the number 4 ranked defense in the country.
Right.
So it's not like they're playing.
They're not playing
some
wishy-washy.
schlubs.
Right.
You know, at that time, I don't know what they're ranked now. They're probably still the same, but they were
But
the
don't
number
forget,
4.
when Oregon played Penn State, they also played them in Penn State. So those are
they make big difference.
Like, okay, so if Miami would have played Syracuse at home,
At Syracuse or
at Miami.
Yeah.
They're not losing to them,
Yeah.
right?
Could see that.
There's a big difference between going on the road and
Right,
playing
right.
at home.
Yep.
And so Oregon in that game against Penn State still had to face 100,000 plus.
100%.
And it was going to be one of those like,
Yeah. And that's what big difference. PD had brought it up to me. We're like, oh, the Indiana Notre Dame game. I'm like, it's in Notre Dame, bro. And it's going to be cold.
Cold as shit.
It's
Like,
cold, bro.
Indiana's cold, but it's not like, dude, you still got to go on the road.
Yeah.
You still got to play a team that is obviously way better than you.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you got to deal with the elements, the crowd,
The
like
snow, all that.
factors.
Ohio State's defense is really, really good.
Yeah.
Like their NFL, all 11 guys, NFL.
Perfect. And to add to my point, Dylan Gabriel doesn't convince me. He's not. I know he's a really good quarterback, but something about him, I'm like, just iffy. I'm not sold on him. So combining with a really good defense,
I know. I feel exactly the way you feel, except for one thing: the line.
Says otherwise.
Because I just know Vegas.
Yeah, Vegas not losing.
and their public they know everyone's locked in on Ohio State. Ohio State now became like the favorite because they look good, and so these are overreactions from the public, and Vegas always capitalizes on that overreaction.
Yep.
I agree 100% with what you're saying, and in my heart, I think Ohio State wins.
But if they give you money, put this on somebody, you're putting on Oregon.
Yep.
I got you.
Yep, that's exactly how I feel.
Yeah, that's the same way. Sometimes I get torn. I'm like, oh, I want my Gators to win, but then I'm like,
You guys played Tulane really hard. Great job.
thanks. Let's go,
That
baby.
was- that was-
Gasparilla.
That was probably one of the most highly anticipated games of the weekend for me. Was to see the Gators play on a Friday at 3:30. When nobody
Appreciate it, bro.
cares.
Thank you, man.
I didn't watch that game. You guys played Tulane. It's like playing a high school team full of blind kids.
I was just reading. See.
Sorry to the blind kids. I don't mean anything by it, but
Listen, I hate to be Debbie Downer, so like I didn't watch that game. I was really like reading my clemency.
to make sure that I'm
Much more
really free.
sure.
You guys are letting me out,
You know
right?
what I mean? Like I was
No
like
take back seats.
I was like sticking my toe outside to make sure there wasn't a buzz.
There,
Like-
no take back seas.
Yeah.
Listen, Lazo wearing an Apple Watch. I'm surprised it doesn't give you PTSD and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I'm tremoring.
This guy doesn't wear watches.
Yeah.
Man.
No, I don't wear
my
anything.
God. Please, my BOP Rolex.
But yeah, that was a scintillating game. I mean, if you
But
watch that, you're
would you
a true
rather
fan.
play in a Gasparilla Bowl or a Pop Tart Bowl? hey, Pop Tart trophy is named as one of the better trophies, the more entertaining. It has an actual toaster on it, so
Listen, just give me my s'mores, will you?
I had a box for you, but he ate them all. So, all right, now on to the next game, which I think is going to be whether Ashon Genty is for real or not. All right, because Boise State, Penn State, he's going up against Penn State, obviously, who just dominated the shit out of SMU. I feel Boise State's probably in the same caliber as an SMU. 81st strength of schedule, the highest strength of schedule, or the lowest strength of schedule upon any college football teams now in the playoff. What do you think? What do you think is going to be the outcome of this? I think personally, Penn State's just going to do the same thing they did to SMU. Load the box, make this kid beat us with his arm.
Well, I agree with that point. They're going to load the box because Boise can't beat them any other way.
right.
Yeah.
Period.
I agree.
The thing with Penn State, where I think this game gets out of hand adding to your assessment is I think Penn State's going to run all over them.
Really?
Yeah, because they got a really good running game. This kid Singleton's great, and the other running back, I don't even know if he's a backup. I think they just really have a two-man situation. Yeah, and I think they're going to be very effective running the ball on Boise. I don't like laying 10 points with Penn State because they're just not sexy.
I think he got up to 11.5 at one point.
Yeah, they're just not sexy.
Yeah.
But I just don't see how Boise State can exploit Penn State's offensive weakness. I really just think they're going to be able to run the ball on Boise, and it's not going to be an exciting game in any way, shape, or form. I think it's going to be defense, and I could see like 31-14. That's where I see that game.
Yeah.
27-13. Like that's where I see that game going. I just that's how I see it. That's how I see it. I don't.
Penn State's running back had like 192 yards combined and 3 touchdowns. So
they're going to run the ball. James Franklin is just not a. I don't like him as a coach. I don't like him. Period. But this is a tailor-made.
Yeah, tailor-made playoff bracket. SMU.
Yeah.
Boise State.
I mean, give me that. Give me that all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll take that road. I mean, that could have been the Hurricanes road.
They've written. That's why I keep saying, you know what I mean? Forget the fans that rag on me for the comments and this and that. He's a hater, this and that. Man, you got to be honest about it, man. Miami would have walked right the fuck through this bracket.
Yeah.
They just would have. They would have, man. And then, you play at home for the Orange Bowl, you should win, right? And then it's a one-game season. Anything can happen. Anything. Anyone who's left in the field, Miami could have beaten on a neutral site for in Atlanta for the national championship. I mean, Cam Ward's a special player, man. Special player.
What percentage would you give Penn State to be the overall favorite to win the whole thing? Like, what if you had to assign a percentage of it? What's the percentage of being able to win it all? I mean, obviously factoring their road.
2 to 5%.
Yeah,
Really?
you gotta play Georgia or
I could just see what I could see is Georgia's defense. Like Georgia's coming out, and they want their offense to not turn the ball over,
Right.
so their defense can handle business.
Because it's going to be a heavy defensive game.
Yeah, at this point,
because
Think
without
about,
Carson
just think
Beck-
about what Georgia did to Texas in the first game at Texas. That defense controlled the narrative.
Yeah. It's going to be.
No pun intended.
I was gonna say you can't say you're lying without saying you're lying.
I can't help it. I can't help it. You guys came up with a great title.
Yeah. And it's going to be.
Yeah, I like Penn State in this game. I think it's low scoring. I think Penn State handles it. I don't see Boise scoring outside of. They got to come up with a little bit of trickery. They got to do something like that. They have to.
Like the
But I don't-
Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be a blowout like he says. I think it's not going to be a complete blowout. But it's not. I do think Penn State is still going to dominate overall.
Yeah.
You're going to see Penn State dominating, but I don't think it's going to be like a 48-10.
No,
kind of thing.
I don't. I can't see it.
It's not going to be that. I don't think.
I actually see it like that. I think what Penn State's going to do is they're going to take Ashon Genty out of the game early. They're going to force Boise State to become a passing team because they're going to be playing from behind because you can't run the ball, unless you're going to get quick scores. You can't run the ball with Genty 37 times like they're doing. If you're down, even if you're down 14 points, you still can't. Obviously not abandoning your run game. That's what got you there. But eventually you have to become a passing team. I think they're going to try to take them away completely early. And if they get up 21-0, they're just going to pin their ears back, and they're just going to go after them and after them and after them, and they're not going to give them a chance to get anything going. If Boise State, in my opinion, not knocking Boise, but if Boise, scores 20, it's a win for them.
Yeah.
I agree.
Like a moral victory, not an actual victory.
I sort of agree.
So,
Yeah. I tell you. Yeah.
second game on the slate that I think is going to be a good game because I think both teams are coming in hot. One team's coming in hot. The other one's been lurking and waiting is Georgia-Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame's going to ride this wave, but ultimately I think Georgia is just too much defensively. Where I think it might get a little bit tighter is forcing Georgia to have to score. You know, if Georgia can't afford to get into a shootout, because I think they lose if they get into a shootout.
Let me dispel that real quick. That is absolutely what this game is not going to be.
A shootout?
Okay, that is my play of the week, the under.
Under, for sure.
I don't even know what the total is, 40-something. They're not scoring.
Right.
Either team.
Neither team.
9-6.
One because, they don't have
12-7.
a... Damn.
13-10.
Jesus Christ.
Jeez.
15-10.
I don't see this game hitting 30
This game has this...
total.
Wow.
This game has
That's low. That's really low. I mean, you're talking...
This is a graveyard.
You're talking about a barn burner.
Graveyard special.
Graveyard special.
We've been in a couple of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the under in this game. I love it.
Yeah. I think this game is a lot closer because of the situation Georgia's facing on offense right now.
Yeah, and
With
I'm going
Carson
with
Beck.
Georgia. I'm going with Georgia because I'm not going to bet against Kirby Smart in a situation like this. I have a lot of respect for Marcus Freeman. Think he's a hell of a coach. I think he's going to be a really good coach long term, like a lifer type great coach. But Kirby Smart, Georgia's defense, SEC, I'm not going against them in a game like this.
Yeah.
Riley Leonard doesn't impress me. I can see him running for his life. And not a lot of points.
Yeah.
And if the points come, I could see pick sixes or fumbles or something like
pick sixes and stuff like that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
If Notre Dame wins this game, somehow pulls this game off, do you see them as a contender?
Yes.
To try to get to
100%. You have to.
Because you got to think at that point they'd play the winner
Penn
of
State.
Boise
Playing
State.
Penn State.
Penn State.
That's why I picked Penn State in my pool. I picked Texas, or not pool, but when I made that I did my selections on Pac-Man's thing. It's not because this is a win. Anybody can win this thing.
Yeah.
There's no dominance. Like it's no bet this team against the field. There's no like.
You don't have an overwhelming favorite.
There's not. Like I would probably say. I just see it. It's really hard that I could see somebody not emerging from that Texas, Ohio State, Oregon winner.
Right.
Like someone's got to win, right? So then they're going to play Texas. Whoever comes out of that game is winning the title.
Yeah. That left side of the bracket is gonna. There's a winners.
That's it. Prove. I mean, someone's gonna have to prove to me other. It's just not gonna happen.
So, give you a scenario. We're looking. We don't want to. I don't want to push too much ahead. And we end up with Georgia in the final, with an Oregon in the final. Carson Beck's back.
I'm taking the
Oregon?
the other side. Yeah, I'm on that other side of the bracket heavy.
Yeah, I mean this is kind of, unfortunately, the bottom of the bracket is going to be who's playing for second place.
Great way to put it, and I agree.
The only way that you're not is if somehow we end up with a Texas and Georgia matchup again. That's the only way I can see that the bottom.
And
of
if
the
that
bracket.
happens, Arch Manning starts.
What?
Why is that? Oh, because Georgia can't play against mobile quarterbacks?
No, because Quinn Ewers has had 2 bad games against Georgia.
Yeah, but after
for a national championship, you start him.
Tua Jalen Hurts.
I mean, this guy can't even get a goddamn snap.
Tua Jalen Hurts.
Yeah,
Listen, I'll still never. I watched
Short
that game,
leash, man.
and I'm like, who is this kid? And then he
one
throws
bad play, it gets you on the bench type stuff.
Well, no,
Short leash, man.
Tua took a sack on the first play before he threw the touchdown in overtime. He took a sack.
Very prematurely for us to discuss this, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, you're right. All right.
Well, either way, you heard it here first. Arch Manning starts against Georgia in the national championship. Nevin called it.
If it ends that way.
Yeah, I think that's a bracket of death up there, and the bracket down here is just a second place. Unless the only way, like I said, the only way we get that is if we get a Georgia-Texas matchup.
Yeah,
By the way, Andy asked me that question, and that's why I brought it up again.
Huh.
He asked me it on the last podcast. See, I do research before I show up.
I mean, it's not like you don't have time.
I'm very I'm very anal. No pun.
I like that.
No,
I like
no
that.
pun intended again.
Yeah, okay.
Pause.
No prison terms here.
Yeah. I'll get you hemmed up inside.
So, Nevin, let's get some thoughts on NIL. You know, what we saw during the weekend.
Yeah.
What are some of your thoughts on what's hitting the portal out there? what are your thoughts on some of the Miami transfers and then kids that are, actually hitting the portal that probably shouldn't be?
So first of all, I'll address the Miami transfers. That's just business. Miami's gonna lose kids and they're gonna get kids, and that's just the same as any other team goes. I wasn't overly ecstatic about who they've added, but I think Mario Cristobal has to be maybe a little bit more cautious because that slush fund is not just wide open now,
Right.
right? Okay, and
Unless he don't.
and I think you have to see when these bowl games end and these championship games end, who's in play, so you can't go blow your load per se early on in the portal.
Mario has a history of doing that.
So maybe there's guys that are under the table ready to come in. You don't know.
Yeah.
Call it tampering or whatever you want to call it.
Some
but,
call it tampering.
it is what it is. But listen, you
Yeah.
can thank the NCAA for this guardrailed situation. So I think Miami will find some. They're going to get theirs.
Yeah.
The guys they've signed early on, there were only 2 or 3. I wasn't. One on the defensive lineman looks like he's got some size. They need DBs. Who knows what's coming? I think it's all gonna shake out after the next portal dump when these games are over and kids announce they're going whatever. NIL in general, we have to do our own show on it,
And we will.
and we're gonna. And obviously, you had the show on Friday of the NIL.
Yeah. No. If you guys haven't
That's
watched
the show.
Yeah.
You guys can find that on our socials, our YouTube. Click it.
Yep. Check
Uncle
it out.
Luke.
We got Uncle Luke and Nevin here talking it out.
People could say whatever they want to say, but certainly whether you like me or hate me, or whether you like Luke or hate Luke for whatever reason, you're talking about 2 guys that have significant insight into that world. And I would really defer a lot to Luke because he's dealing with it as a current head coach at a high school in South Florida. So he's not speaking at a turn. He really has.
He's in the mix.
He's got his finger on the pulse. Like he really knows what's going on. And I think it's a really fucked up scenario. And I could speak for hours on what I know and what I think.
I mean, you can speak for hours in general. Let's just get it real.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But there's heavy opinions. This NIL thing has got to be addressed. Kids getting money's fine. That's never been the issue. You just I'm speaking firsthand of just being involved in some of these deals behind.
You think there should be like some kind of cap on it and all that stuff?
It's got to be. It's just
or
gotta
more
be,
than
it's
more
just-
intricate than that.
It's just got to be a fair playing field. It's just got to be a fair playing field for everybody. Like, look, here's the biggest thing I could say about Miami. Like, if you're an 18-year-old kid and you can make money, why would you not want to be in Miami?
Of course.
In Miami.
You know what I mean?
305.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? Like, it's not even a thought. But they got to put some guardrails on this thing. It's just it's out of control. Kids are. I'm watching what's going on behind the scenes, and when I say I was involved with a deal, I'm not going to say who, what, why, this and that. I didn't make money on anything. I'm just telling you that like my consulting was utilized, and I just couldn't believe the amount of money for kids that weren't deserving of that.
Right,
kind
of course.
money.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of what you were alluding to last podcast, where we're throwing money at kids that don't deserve it. That don't deserve it. Just the talent level is not there. Yeah, I feel the same way. There's got to be some guardrails, some caps. There's got to be something, because if not, it's just going to turn to how baseball was at one point, uncapped.
And
the teams with the most money win.
Right.
Pete, it goes even deeper than that. You're talking about runners to the runners getting to these kids and giving them horrible advice. And they're ending up jumping into the portal because they think they're the next thing smoking.
Right.
And now they got no home because they gave up a scholarship.
Yeah.
There's a number of there's too many issues for us to discuss on this segment.
I don't know. Yeah.
But it's a real.
In a similar example, I'm not saying that he was maybe jumping ship or he wasn't necessarily, I'm leaving to go somewhere else. But Jenkins, FIU quarterback, he left. He went to the portal. A couple days later, they announced he's like, he's going to come back. And maybe it had to do with the new coach Simmons at FIU. And he's he's there they did a little video. Yo, I'm here, Coach Simmons, pulse up, da 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 da.
And no one really has the handle on it because I have coaches that are reaching out to me on the regular. Well, you guys see my stuff.
Yeah, of course.
You know what's going on.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I got coaches reaching out to me like, yo, what do I do? How do I handle it? It's foreign territory, man. And like this needs a whole overhaul.
Right.
Kids should get paid, but this gets back to what the NCAA should have done back when I was going at it with them. They just put their head in the sands, and we said that on the podcast the other day. They put their head in the sands, hoping it would go away. It didn't, and all they did was create a much greater.
Yeah. Why would it go away?
Pandemic. They created a great pandemic, and this whole thing that's going on right now.
Yeah.
And all you got to do is watch Nick Saban, who's excellent. First of all, he's one of the top three coaches of all time.
Right.
Not even arguable. But he's excellent at what he does in his role at ESPN.
Oh my God,
and he's
so
honest. And he's like, he's like,
amazing.
man, it's just like, listen, it's bullshit what's going on. It's stupid. It's stupid. And this portal thing, you want bowl games, but you let kids transfer during the bowl.
Right.
And they don't have a choice. The kids don't have a choice because then they don't have a home if they don't jump. Like the NCAA is just fucking garbage, man. They're shit. And I'm saying it. Shit. Get that? All right.
With a capital S.
Yeah, and I think when the whole NIL thing started, I worked for FIU Athletics at one point, and the whole NIL thing that started happening, I started seeing it. And my first fear was these schools with the more money are simply going to start overshadowing all these other schools with no money.
It's like, it's like Walmart to a bodega.
Yeah, none of these others.
It depends on the bodega, because
if you go a bodega with a nice chopped cheese, you know what I'm saying?
You can also run a couple different businesses. You know what I'm saying?
I happen to be a bodega guy. Maybe I should have used another analogy.
But yeah, that's what I had when we start talking about this whole NIL stuff. I'm like, bro, you see all these teams, all these schools with so much more money, oil money, and all these things. They're gonna start weighing any of these small schools, and you're never gonna see any small schools shine.
I saw it coming.
100%. There had to be some, and I agree. There has to be more than just a cap. You can't spend a certain limit. There has to be more than that, and all that transfer stuff limited to maybe once or something like that. But
they have to let the schools. This thing with the collectives thing is just. There's so many ways to circumvent it. It's not funny. I'm watching it. I see it. I'm not going to share the story.
Yeah, no.
But like I watch it. I just watched the deal yesterday go down, and I'm laughing because I have no skin in the game. But I'm like, man, I can see like
you're seeing it from the outside looking in.
Stevie Wonder could see this. You know what I mean?
I thought it was pretty funny. I saw something the other day online where it says, when NFL players do their introductions in their NFL stuff, it says, it's said at the top, NFL players in 2027, and it said John Johnson, Clemson, Ohio State, and Fresno, all the schools that they've been to now with the transfer portal. And I thought it was hilarious. I'm like, it's so damn true.
Said that.
Well, that was
they're
like
making a joke.
That was like the joke they were making, but they were saying
Michael
that's a good one.
What college are you going to pick? You went to 3.
We're like 4 different colleges.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they gotta fix it. And I think I think it's great for the players and the kids in certain schools, but if it's done right, it's obviously a lot more to gain.
I think we all agree the sentiment. The kids should be compensated. It's way past that time, but there's for the civility of and sportsmanship of the coming from me, of course, and the sportsmanship of
what would you know?
Of of fair competition. Like it's got to be monitored appropriately. It's just it's so stupid right now that It's just obvious. Everyone knows what it is. You know,
It's a bit sad, yeah, because they just put a yes stamp
And
instead of, hey, these are the rules that we're gonna follow, and yes, let's approve.
these kids are professional now.
Yeah.
There's no.
Yeah, they're no longer kids.
Yeah.
They're
These are employees.
they're business people.
Make no mistake. They're employees. W-2 forms, like they're employees.
Yeah.
Deal.
You know?
All right, I think that's all we got for this week. Be sure to check out our other Godfathers of the NIL with Nevin and Uncle Luke. Wish everybody Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and
I'm taking my newfound freedom. I'm going to run with the Bulls with Andy.
In Spain.
well, I don't know if you can go that far yet.
Oh yeah. That's right. Oh yeah. I haven't met my PO yet.
Don't worry, I'll put it up on YouTube
well-
right there. Well,
We'll put you in a graphic with him in there. You know,
hey,
PO, he's not going anywhere. Trust me, we got him.
Yeah.
hey, well, just text him. Hey, can you go live for Nev real quick?
All right, everybody. Hope you have a great holiday weekend. We'll be back soon.
Merry Christmas.
See ya.
See you guys.
Going for the corner. Touchdown! Alabama! And the kick is, what is he looking at? What a hit!